Have you ever wondered how much inflation can impact your daily life? We are going to break down the impact of inflation on people in their 40s and 50s by learning these three concepts. First, what is inflation? Second, could inflation impact my investments and how? And third, how to hedge against inflation. Hello, David here with Living Your Wealth, and welcome to Whiteboard in the Wilderness. Today I will be presenting these three strategies over a three-part video series. In today's video, I will be going over the second concept, could inflation impact my investments and how? By the end of today's second video, you will have learned, should I worry about inflation and how it affects my savings? The U.S. economy has a long history of relatively mild inflation, averaging around 3% annually. That is a modest number, but you cannot ignore it. Even 3% over 25 years means the price of goods would be roughly double during that span. We have been in a cycle of exceptionally low interest rates for over a decade now, and economic growth has been strong, but so is spending. That's the goal. From the Federal Reserve standpoint at least. Below a certain threshold, people generally do not really worry too much about inflation. Some prices rise, some prices fall. On balance, your wages keep going up with spending. That ends up being the Federal Reserve's objective. Inflation is so low that people do not even think about it on a daily basis. So where may inflation impact you the most? Well, it may shrink your savings even if you have secured your funds in a savings account with an average interest rate. In theory, when you are working, your earnings should keep pace with inflation. Inflation diminishes your buying power when you live off your savings. Like some Gen Xers who may be on a sabbatical or are semi or permanently retired, it is important to factor in inflation into your retirement savings to ensure you have enough assets to last through your retirement years. Typically, conservative investors buy bonds, treasuries, and CDs because they want a stable income stream of interest payments. However, since the interest rate remains the same on most bonds until maturity, the purchasing power of those interest payments declines as inflation rises. As a result, bond prices tend to fall when inflation increases. And then long-term bonds do even worse. Those on a fixed income will feel the effect of inflation more than those who are still working. Now, some people are getting nervous about the risk of high inflation, or at the very least, warning that it's coming. Investors are indicating that they are more worried about inflation than the pandemic. And bond yields are often a sign of investors expect inflation, have been fluctuating. Inflation is a measure of the economy as well as unemployment and wages. A small amount of inflation can be a sign of a healthy economy. But if inflation starts to pick up and our paychecks do not follow, that may be cause for concern. Nobody wants to pay more for the same items at the grocery store if they're not making more money to keep up with it. The measures policymakers might take to combat inflation, such as to raise interest rates or to stave it off once fears arise, could harm the economy by cutting off growth too fast. One of the critical elements that may impact Gen Xers or those who are in their 40s and 50s who are closer to retirement age is how much they will buy with their dollar. The concept of purchasing power becomes more relevant to the conversation. The buying power of someone who retires on a fixed income at 55 would feel the effects of higher inflation much more than someone, say, in their 20s who would expect their earnings potential to increase over time. But there is even a more critical factor to weighing the real-life impact of higher prices. The government's consumer price index inflation rate is calculated from the cost of a generic basket of consumer goods. But your personal inflation rate is almost certainly different. To you, a 5% increase in the price of milk might not matter as much as a 5% increase in your property taxes levied by your town. And rising long-term health costs might be an even more significant factor in your personal inflation rate. So tie it all up, and while you shouldn't overreact to threats of monster inflation, you can't ignore the real-life inflation rate as well. So only time will tell, so please stay tuned, and please check out our next video where we will tell you what you can do to avoid the effects of inflation. So one of the main reasons we provide these videos for you, Gen X, is education. We want to help you know and understand that there are many factors and many focus areas for financial planning, at least on a fundamental level. When you plan for the unexpected, the emotional and financial stress often ends up being far less taxing than if you did nothing at all. It is impossible to avoid every unforeseen situation, but we have seen and witnessed firsthand the power of a financial plan. Thank you again, and we hope you have a great day. So we'd love to hear from you, so please subscribe to our channel and like us if you enjoyed this video. At the close of every video, we will give you a quote from my absolute favorite TV show, The Office. And we want you to guess which character said the passage, and there's even extra credit for naming the season and episode. So please email me at david@livingyourwealth.com with your answer. Who is Justice Beaver? It's a crime-fighting beaver. That's all. Thank you very much. Have a great day.